All right, I'm going to play some Tour 7 here just to work on club cards, get a little practice in. Don't remember many of these holes, so we'll see how it goes. Koh Hong Resort. I think the only time I've ever played this hole really is in the tournament that it came out. And a few one-on-ones out here in T7. See if my opponent can get this shot to the right. Fairly narrow little neck here, especially with a 7-1 headwind. This is what's cracking me up about the game. We got a 7-1 headwind here, and I'm almost willing to bet money that the next shot will be a 2 or 3 tailwind. That forces a lot of people to bring out big balls on the drive, and then the second shot they'll level the playing field and give people with smaller balls an opportunity to get up there with tailwind. In real golf, especially when you get on these big resort courses on busy days, they want you to tee off every 6 minutes. So every 6 minutes you're off. So you have 6 minutes between shots. And I don't know that I've ever went out and played where in that 6-minute time the winds went from a 7-mile-an-hour headwind. 6, 7, 4. It's a pretty straightforward shot with a little overpower. Hit it perfect. Played a lot of real golf, and when you're out in a place and you got a 15-mile-an-hour headwind, and then 6 minutes later you've got a 15-mile-an-hour side wind, and then 6 minutes later you have a 15-mile-an-hour tailwind, and the wind is swirling around you. They call that a tornado. And I've never once played golf during a tornado or storms. When you're playing in tournaments, you got to deal with whatever the weather is, but usually they don't play too much on stormy days. Now, look, we got a 3-7 tailwind on the second shot. So 6 minutes later, we went from wind going from the south to the north. Now we're dealing with wind that's going from the north to the south. Usually in nature, wind will have a predominant direction. It's one of the things in the tournaments that I'd really, really like to see them change, is to set it up so that we actually have a layout for the golf course. Like, how is this course really laid out? So they can tell us, like, we have a 10-mile-an-hour, we've got a prevailing wind that goes from the south to the east, or whatever the deal happens to be. And does that seem like it was jumping around a lot? More than just what you would normally get with a Marlin. So when you're playing one-on-one, the whole goal here is the difference in philosophy between playing one-on-one and tournaments is we can go set those shots up. We know what way the wind's going to blow, and we can bring the right clubs and the right ball for any particular hole. But when you're playing one-on-one and you just come out there, it's a lot better now that we have access to multiple sets of clubs. So we've got multiple bags, and we can choose which bag we're going to play at the beginning. I kind of liked it better when we only had one, just because it really put a lot of emphasis on clubs. And so you really had to make good club decisions. Whereas now you can, have multiple bags set up. From a player's perspective, it's awesome. What I like to see them do in these tournaments is they can tighten these tournaments up. And what it does is if they did a course layout, so we could see how the courses are, with that wind, we always get favorable winds in tournaments. And it would be really nice if the wind, when it came through there, maybe on one hole we are getting favorable wind, but the way the wind's blowing today predominantly, on that other big par 5 that you really need some tailwind, you're not going to get that tailwind today. You're going to get some headwind, and you're not going to be able to really go for that Albie. Put just a smidgen top spin on there. Now I know I'm way downhill here, so I'm going to do like a 20% adjustment. So that's going to be like 3-2. And add a little bit on. It's probably like a 3-4, 3-5 adjustment. Probably 3-4. And I hit it great to the right, which just took out all of that wind adjustment I put in. Need to work on the distance on that. It's been so long since I played these shootouts. I don't remember. I do know that when you go to these holes, and like my primary bag, you know, looking at my primary bags, Extra Mile, Guardian, Saturn, Hornet. My mid clubs, the wood and the long iron, are backspin clubs. My short iron is super accurate. My secondary bag, which would be my accurate bag, going with a rock or a quarterback. I've got both of those bags set up. The quarterback has a little bit more topspin, so in some areas it works out better, even though it hits a little bit less. But with the buffs that they've just recently given the rock, in most cases, it's going to be a better club than the quarterback. But when you're coming out here and you're playing in one-on-one, the deal is that if you think about in tournament play, we almost always come to these par threes with lower level balls, Marlins, Navigators, Quasars. So if you play the hole with those clubs and you go to the shootout, you're going to have, in most cases, you're going to have the ball that you would normally take to that shootout. So we don't normally take Titans and Kingmakers and 4-power balls to shootouts. So sometimes you'll have a little bit of problems with it. So there's nothing wrong with playing with the lower level stuff. Sometimes I find when I'm out on the course, I actually, you got to kind of scramble a little bit when you're using a lower level ball. But once you get to the shootout, you'll be fine. Sunshine Glades, hole 9, par 5. I have no recollection of this hole. I can't remember any of these holes until I get to them. I don't remember the names of holes. I don't remember any of that stuff until I actually get on it. And then when I get out there, I know, okay, in Rookie, we play over here trying to get into this area and going in with a sniper and one-on-one. Typically, we're going to head out into this area, and you got a monster drive. It works good in your bag when you're playing here if your wood is a big dog, especially if you're hitting out into this area right here. If you want to bring out a big ball, and from the pro tees here, it's going to be really hard to get over there unless you bring out a monster ball. I always like it when my opponent brings out a big ball and tries to go for it like this. And that might be good. Might be. Excellent. Nice shot. Nice shot, man. The only one I got a big dog in is my Big Tapa. Big Tapa. Let's see if I can I even get over there? And it's about 5-4 right there. It's about 2-1 per ring at this level. I'm going to put just a little teeny bit of overpower on it just because I want to clip that rough and kind of end up on the other side, but I don't want to get in the clear. If I get in the clear, I got so much topspin on there, it'll probably go a mile. But if I can clip the rough just a little bit long. Got to come out here and have fun. I never come out when I'm playing one-on-one and stress it. Part of that is bankroll management. If you are tight on coins, pretty much the saying in the community is have 10 times the amount to go up. I've never been a fan of 10 times. If you're going up to the next tour, you always, for myself, I want to have enough that I can go to that next tour and not have to worry about it. There's a learning curve when you go to a new tour, especially if you've never played those holes before. And so ideal is I don't want to go up and have to stress out about every single shot. That kind of takes the fun away from the game. I want to be able to go out there and just play. We'll see if we have any shot of getting over there. If we have any shot at all of getting over to the other side, I'm definitely going to use a. How can I use that wind to my advantage? Can I? Yeah, there's one. Let's get far enough out here where we can see what we're doing. There's one. There's one. There's two. I'm going to go right there on the edge of that, and I'm going to take the wind out. 2, 6, 7, 1. See if I can catch that fairway over there on the other side. Bring myself up there to give myself a shot for a chip. I do those max overpower shots all the time. I mean, if you're in a spot where you can get over and you're playing one-on-one, you can, you can set yourself up to put yourself in a spot so that you've got the best chip, a short iron, especially if you can't make it over. So if you're in a spot where you can't make it over like that, then the goal is don't press the issue. Put yourself in the best spot for the next club that you have. That's why I always bring an accurate short iron. And from this distance, we got a little teeny bit of wind in play. See if I can hit this perfect. And hit great to the right. In the hole! Out of the hole! Good game. Hit perfect, that goes in. Don't hit perfect, it doesn't go in. We'll see if they'll rematch. When I was going up, Tour 8's 300,000 coins. I think when I went to Tour 8, I had millions. I had probably somewhere around 9 million before I went to Tour 8. I really wanted to make sure when I went to Tour 8 that I could stay at Tour 8 and just keep playing. When I went to Tour 9, I think I had an excess of 30 million when I went to Tour 9. When I went to Tour 10, I think I had 120 million. So I had, enough to be able to go in there and play for a while and not have to stress it out. And the deal is I see all the time in the community where people are going, like, are these clubs okay in this tour? It's not just about the clubs. Great clubs, really, it's ball guide is what you primarily get with great clubs. You can really see where you're going. But you have to have what the deal is that if you're not having a lot of success in a tour, you can't blame it on your clubs. Like, what's going wrong? Like, if you really analyze your game, are you ending up in the rough a lot and you're losing? Or are you losing in shootouts? Or where are you losing? Like, where are you losing the majority of your matches? I lose the majority of my matches just because I'm dinking around. There is no way I'm going to be able to make that over. I might be able to run out there on the rough and get a clip. Let's see if we can get over to it with my massive Marlin. One ring great to the right. The whole goal is just to clip the rough. If I can get over far enough that I can clip the rough on the other side. Nope, in the sand. We'll see if we can do another max overpower hook shot and get up there. That's how some days go. But my opponent hitting over to the left gave me a free shot. I knew they weren't going to be able to get on from over there. And so they're going to have to take a chip unless what I would do in this spot, because he's got a free shot here because I'm in the sand, I would do the max overpower hook shot with my Guardian, and there's a good chance you could get up there. So a lot of times how I take my shot is going to be dependent on my opponent. My opponent was where I was trying to get, and they were in the clear. I would have had to think a little bit harder on that. I probably would have stayed with the big topper because my next club would have been a big dog, and I might have gone to the left. We have no shot of getting up there. So if there's no shot of getting up there, there's no shot of getting up there. No reason to press that issue. 2, 4, 6, 8. It's about 2 per ring. Hitting it good. I know that at least for my game, regardless of what my rough iron and sand wedge say, if it says that it's 50 accurate, I treat it as a 25 accuracy club. And short irons or rough irons and sand wedges hit different than any other club as far as accuracy. The closer you can get, they get super accurate because most clubs have a range. So like with your short iron, the range may be, just picking numbers, it may be 75 to 120 yards. And so, you talk about max club, mid club, minimum club. Well, there's only, a 50-yard difference between max and minimum. With let's take a Nirvana as an example, it hits 129. Well, it can go from 0 to 129. So when you're at 129 at max club, it seems like it's about half as accurate as it seems to be. But when you get it up closer, the closer you get it, the more accurate it gets. When it's in about half club, it hits about right. We're at max club, so that's 1.9. So there's 6 minus 3. There's 5, 7. 6, 7, 7, 7. We're just a little shy of 4 rings. Hitting it perfect. Give myself a look. Not a good look, but a look. About pin high. I always like it my distances right. So if you're hitting with sand wedges and rough irons, I see a lot of people, they're really nonchalant about it. They get into the rough or they get in the sand and they just go there and they quickly line it up and take the shot because I'm in the sand or the rough. These clubs are very inaccurate. They're not, you can't, if you practice a lot with those clubs and think about the numbers, like with my rough iron, I think of my Nirvana when it's at max club, it's 2 per ring. And when it's at kind of like maybe towards mid club, it's 4 per ring. I kind of break it into quarters. When it's about, or maybe thirds, it's a feel deal. When it's maybe at 2/3, it's like 4 per ring. And when it's at half, it's maybe towards the 8 per ring, or 1/3, it's towards the 8 per ring. Extra mile, I'm not too keen on, but that's, give myself some room here since I got a 9 headwind. Come off just a little so I can put a little bit of curl on it. There's 6. There's 7, 8, 9, 6. I am going to do right back to the red line so that I can somewhat compensate for that headwind. Whoa down, Cat Daddy. Don't roll past that hole. You don't want to roll past on this one. And one-on-one, it's not that big a deal. You roll past down there, okay, you lose a shootout. But when you're in tournament play, you roll past that hole and end up down there on the bottom. There's a little bit of a cut before it gets up to the fringe. So sometimes you'll get lucky and you'll end up rolling through that and you'll end up on the fringe and you can get on pretty easy. You can get in pretty easy. But if you end up down there on the bottom of the green and you didn't make it to the fringe, that's a max overpower putt. And there's spots down there you can't even get to the hole. And you definitely can't see the hole from down there because it's downhill from the cup. It's going to be in the sand. Good game. See if they'll replay. Oh, it's like some replay action. Nobody wants to replay. I will intentionally lose sometimes or do dunks on shootouts, and people won't replay. It's like, man, I just gave you some coins and you don't want to replay me? Are you afraid I'm going to win them back? There's so much pressure in this community on coins, especially if you're going up. If you think about it, if you were a Tour 12 player at a billion coins, like how many matches you could play. If you've got 2 or 3 million coins, you can play pretty much anything below Tour 7, Tour 6 and below forever. All right, we're back on this hole with another 8 headwind. And I'm once again willing to almost bet money that the next wind is going to be a tailwind. One thing I wish in the tournaments that they would give us where it's not always, where we have a predominant wind, they lay the course out so that we can see how it goes, because not every hole is going to get great wind. You don't go to golf courses and they're 18 holes in a straight line. But in one-on-one, I think they should do what they're currently doing in tournaments, because this giving people 8-6 headwind, so it forces players, they feel like they have to bring out a big ball in order to get it done. And then the next wind, 6 minutes later, 2, 4, 6, 8. That's 8, 4. So we're just a little over 4 rings. That puts me about 2.5 rings in the power. So that means I'm going to have to put a little bit of overpower to make up the difference. Hit it great. That'll end up in the sand if it makes it over. So we'll see what the next wind is. I mean, you can't blame Playdemic. I mean, if you look at it from their perspective, they make money. Wow, we got a 3-5. Unbelievable, and the wind's going in the same direction. That's totally unbelievable. I mean, from Playdemic's perspective, yeah, I mean, we as players want certain things, but Playdemic has to make sure that they're in the business of trying to make money. That's why they created the game. And so they have to make sure that they've got their stuff covered so that they can continue to make money. But manipulating the wind like this is kind of cheesy. So I can't get over to the other side to try my max overpower hook. So if you have no shot, then what you do is you lay yourself up. You want to be right in the middle. That way, if I hit a good like that, I still have a shot of making it in. I see people all the time when they're in trouble and then they're trying to set the shot up and they're trying to get to some spot out there that they think is like the best spot. If I'm in that spot, I can make that shot. But if I'm 6 feet over to the right, I can't make that one. And they push the limit and then they end up in the rough again. That's why you see so many people, they go from the sand to the sand, from the rough to the rough. If you have a shot to get on, especially in one-on-one, you got to take it. You got to go. You got to figure out some way to get up there if you have the shot. But if you don't have a shot, lay yourself up and give yourself a great opportunity. And it also kind of depends on what your opponent's doing. My opponent was struggling, so there was no reason for me to push that issue and end up in the drink or end up back in the sand. This way I have at least a shot to get in. It's not a good one with those trees in the way, but I have a shot. Two, 4. It's 1.2 per ring, so that's a 2-ring pool. I am so close to that tree. If I hit great to the left, I'm at sunk. Isn't it perfect? Give myself a look. See if my opponent can get it in with their end bringer. There's always the big debate on what club's better, the end bringer or the rapier. I found if you're hitting a lot of shots, okay, if you're hitting a lot of shots where you're towards your max wedge, then the end bringer, especially when it gets, I think it's level 5 where it starts to get more accuracy than the rapier, you'll probably have a better shot on those because it is more accurate. But when you're close up to the green, any shot that you can take with their end bringer, you can take with a rapier. But there are shots that you can take with a rapier that you can't take with an end bringer. You can't flatten it out and run it up to the hole. And by flattening it out and running it up to the hole, you're doing two things. Number one, you're making the club more accurate because you're pulling the ring set closer to you, and the closer you can get it, the more accurate it gets. And number two, the closer you can get that ring set to you, the less wind is going to play a factor, if it's going to play a factor. And I can do the little backspin hop. Sometimes you get on those greens where it's got moguls and stuff on it, and you can't, it doesn't work to run it out, so you have to do the little backspin hop. And you can do that same thing with the rapier that you can do with an end bringer. But if you're hitting a lot of shots where you're farther out, then it's definitely going to make a difference. That'll roll off down towards the end. And I'll tell you, in tournament play, you do not want to be down here because you can't make that putt. And it won't give you enough speed in most cases to get you to the fringe. So now you have an uphill, overpowered putt that I don't even think you can get to the hole. I like to be right in here between those shadows, and I want to be dead center in the middle of that fairway. I got a little bit of a headwind here. I'm going to do a 10% overpull. So there's 3, 6. That'd be 3, 3. I'm a little shy of 3 rings. If I have a pure headwind on this hole, I do a 10% over or a 20% overpull. And if I have any kind of headwind, side headwind, I do about a 10%. And then if it's any kind of tailwind, I just do a normal adjustment. And my goal is, in tournament play, I'm usually somewhere in that distance. I don't like, this is one of those, you talk about risk versus reward par threes. You get that wrong, you end up down there where my opponent's at. You, not only are you not going to get the birdie, but you may not be able to make it all the way up. And if your opponent epic failed, then you still have another shot from down there. So let's open up a chest. I always like to have a couple slots open. See how long we've been? We'll play one more. I'll give you one more hole here. This will be the bonus content. See if we can get something done. I know as far as wedges go, I played with the Firefly until I got a rapier. As soon as I got my rapier up so that my ball guide, I'm not sure at what level it is. It might be like level 2. Where it finally gets more topspin, or there's one of those. I need about 3 topspin here. Need to have a little bit of power ready to get us up there. Wind's going over about 1 ring. So we're going to put just a little bit of power on it and a little bit of curl. Hitting about ring and a half, 2 rings great to the right. Just barely made it over. As long as you can get over, you have a shot. But if you're up here in the front, you have a short iron shot. And this is definitely a hole that you can get an eagle on. The way the wind is blowing here, we had a 2 mile an hour, 2.2 mile an hour wind on the drive. Now we'll see what we get on the second shot. See if we're getting gusty winds today. It'll be 8.0 pure headwind. Opponent's got it out there, hit about a 2-ring grate to the left, and that'll go in the rough. The deal is you can get on from there, but if you let somebody lay up out in front here and give them a short iron shot, you don't want to be doing that. Okay, there's Max. I'm right at mid club, which is about 1.9 per ring. So there's 2, 4, 5. It's going to be 1, 2. So it's just a titch over 2.5 rings. Isn't it perfect? Give myself a look. Just a little bit to the left. That was from wind effect with that side wind. It's really hard when we're doing these shots coming into the cup, fighting against a side wind. You have to make a really good adjustment. And the deal is that we're adjusting for the first bounce, but the second bounce, especially when you're hitting it with like a driver or a wood, the second bounce and the third bounce are also getting affected by the wind. So when you're playing up in the upper tours and you're getting a 15 mile or an 18 mile an hour wind, it can seriously affect the movement on the ball. Each subsequent bounce gets affected. That's why you see people in the upper tours they'll set that up and then they'll put on a half a bar of right hand side spin to kind of compensate for that wind effect. Most of these matches are going to end up going to, unless somebody gets really lucky and hits that eagle, most of these matches are going to go to shootouts. It's one of the reasons, like I said earlier in the video, why I play matches with a Marlin ball. I've never really been a big fan of the white ball, and the reason is that I always like to have a little, like drives and stuff, I'll have a little bit of movement on the ball. So everything's going to the right. So that little teeny bit of side spin helps me get everything moving to the right or everything moving to the left. So I'm just used to that little teeny bit of side spin. So I almost exclusively play with Marlins. Occasionally bringing out a Quasar. But I love it when my opponents bring out balls that they had to pay for on holes like this. And you're playing with some big 4 or 5 power balls so that they can get over and they'll bump it up. And while I encourage all my viewers to save your balls for the tournaments, anybody else, I want them to use up their good stuff. That's one less player we have to worry about during the tournament. They used all their good stuff up on one-on-one play. Two, 3. It's about a 2-ring pull. It's 1.2 per ring. There's 2, 4. Hitting it perfect. See if we can get close to the hole. Pretty close. Now in real world, that would be like, okay, 0.2 yards. A yard is 3 feet. So that means that 0.3 yards is 12 inches. So that's like an 8-inch shot. They're saying I'm 8 inches away from the hole right there. It cracks me up the way that the units are measured in the game, because I can't be more than a half an inch off that hole or an inch. But the way the game plays it, that's 8 inches away. See if my opponent can get up there with the big dog, or are they not even going to try? It doesn't look like they're even going to try. They're not going to try now unless they just shoot it up there. All right, we got some bonus content and a win. Winner, winner. All right, that was some Tour 7, just a one-on-one play. Thanks for watching.